soalan-soalan yang diberikan kepada Datuk Seri, tidak biasa lagi terpanggil Datuk Seri YB Rafizi Ramli, begitu padu dan panas sekali ya, terutamanya kerana soalan ini datangnya daripada golongan-golongan profesional. Dan hari ini sesi libat urus ini diadakan di Putrajaya, Kuala Lumpur, ya, untuk industri bagi sektor farmasi dan juga kimia, digital, jentera dan peralatan serta argomakanan. Jadi saya ingin membawakan anda sahabat semua bagaimana mereka mengajukan soalan yang begitu hebat sekali, ya, begitu mantap sekali, dan bagaimana YB Rafizi Ramli pula memberikan respon beliau ya terhadap soalan-soalan yang diberikan ini. Jadi tanpa membuang masa, ayo kita bersama-sama untuk menonton video ini bersama-sama.
Yang orang, yalah, we have all sorts of inputs. Ada orang hantar dekat website, tapi selalunya if we go through this, I remember much better, so that when we consolidate nanti repertoire, catatkan semua, then at least those really big issues kita boleh pastikan dalam dokumen dan perancangan akhir itu, it really includes everything. So with that, saya persilakan, kita ada lebih kurang 1 jam lebih lah, 1 jam lebih. Then kalau ada the first series of questions that I can take and try to explain. Just go to the mic. It's a contest for the mic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Halim Muhammad daripada Majlis Perundingan Melayu Healthcare Cluster. It's not a question, but more like food for thoughts. In 1990, we have 3 medical schools and 1 pharmacy school. There is medical school is practically UM, USM, UKM, and pharmacy school is USM. At that time, we have about 61 private hospitals. Okay. Today, we have about 31 medical schools and about 28 pharmacy schools. Private hospitals, roughly about 213. Okay. In 1990, there were about 44 licensed pharmaceutical manufacturers in Malaysia. Today, there are 43. Never move. Second, food for thoughts. In 1998, Singapore become PICS members, Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme. 2002, Malaysia joined PICS. Today, Singapore exports $30 billion worth of pharmaceuticals. Today, Malaysia imported 8 billion ringgit every year. So something must be very wrong there somewhere. So what are they? Our suggestion is few things. Number one, practically regulators cannot be players. In Malaysia, for example, the Pharmaceutical Services Department was tasked to be the champion for the pharmaceutical manufacturing. It will never happen because regulator cannot be players. That's number one. Number two, we need to separate the dispensing and prescription. Without that, the complaint of expensive medicines and so on will continue, and it has not changed. So these are the 2 things that I would like to highlight. Food for thoughts. 30 years pass. If you look at this sector, something is very wrong. Thank you very much.
Okay, next.
Assalamualaikum. Mohon izin untuk saya teruskan dalam bahasa Inggeris. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am Muhammad Muza Muhayyin, Treasurer of Perantim. Perantim is an association representing local manufacturers with a manufacturing license ISO 13485 certification, and registration with the Medical Device Authority, MDA. Please allow me to share some key challenges faced by our industry. Firstly, the high cost of international certifications like CE, which can reach up to 2 million ringgit per product, is a significant burden, especially for smaller manufacturers. Secondly, restrictions in certain countries that prevent our products from participating in their government procurement processes. Last but not least, limited access to advanced technology, which hampers the production of high quality, low cost, and efficient products. Hence, we humbly seek your support in, first, encouraging the use of local products. This will help strengthen our industry and ecosystem. Secondly, to invest in technology, which advancement in technology can reduce costs and improve competitiveness. Last but not least, developing local talent, where training and education will help create a skilled and competitive workforce. We truly appreciate your attention and continued support toward the growth of our industry. Thank you, YB.
Hi, good morning, YB. My name is Ng Jentik, and I represent Kuala Lumpur Kepong. So we are in the palm oil industry, the plantation side, which partly goes to food, and we have our downstream business. We are in refining and also in the oleochemical industry. So I'm not going to try to make it into a wish list that you mentioned, but it's really some of the very big picture issues that I see for the palm sector. And one of it is actually harmonization of our export tax policy. You probably would know the biggest palm producer in the world is Indonesia. So although it's our neighbor, but they're also our biggest competitor. And Indonesia has a very, very sophisticated export duty and levy structure, and they are very, very focused on going downstream and supporting manufacturing and their biodiesel mandate over there. So one of the things I want to bring up is for the minister to consider is to think about how can we harmonize this tax structure so that we don't compete with Indonesia. And I think what the Indonesians are doing, I think it's a good effort because they're actually creating jobs and keeping all the technical skills and research all within the country and going downstream and becoming more and more specialized. So that's something for the minister to think about. And then
a lot of what Indonesia does revolves around biodiesel mandate. No?
Yes, which I'm also going to get to that point. Yeah. And is that something that we
less oleochemicals, more biodiesel mandate?
Biodiesel, yeah. Something to consider about as part of the what you call this self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
If energy cost is going to be a national security. And then the second point, I think this is the wish list bit, is really one of the slides you mentioned there. I think on the agro-food there, it says that our RD and C, is kurang matang, and that's something that, if we want to go down into the food industry, do our own R&D, is that something that the minister will consider to support companies like us to go and go and do some research on food? That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, maybe another question.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Datuk Seri. My name is Sophie daripada Persatuan Kebangsaan Pekebun Kecil Malaysia. So, I don't have a question, but lebih pada suggestion lah and a statement. So, we are representing the smallholders lah in Malaysia, basically. Dan kalau kita tengok the landscape of smallholders currently, kalau kita tengok aset pekebun kecil, let's just make it simple. Aset pekebun kecil dulu, back in 30 years ago, macam tanah, and then for the other asset, labor, and also technology. 20 years, 30 years ago, this is asset for them. Tapi sekarang ni, this is the thing that preventing them from moving forward lah, because of their age. So currently, the smallholders in Malaysia, average is 60 years and above. And for land issue, sekarang ni, if we focus on 3 issues, which is the first is land. The first is land is they don't have the capability untuk dia nak operate their land anymore. And then their children, dia punya anak pun memang dah tak nak bangunkan dah ladang ni. Dia lebih fokus pada industri lain yang lebih memberi keuntungan lah. And then for labours pun dah jadi isu, sebab itulah orang muda sekarang ni memang tak nak kerja. And then for technology, back in those days, mesin cantas is a very good technology lah. Tapi sekarang ni diorang nak angkat mesin cantas pun dah susah. Ini for sawit lah. And then for getah pun dah jadi masalah. And this the same thing goes for other commodity and food crop. So to make it simple, our suggestion is untuk kerajaan tubuhkan tabung pembangunan pekebun kecil negara, or maybe we can sebut sebagai TPPKN. So macam mana tabung ni first nak bergerak is maybe by geran padanan yang boleh dilaksanakan oleh kerajaan. And smallholders ni, dia punya isu dia ada tanah. Macam tadi saya dengar YB Datuk Seri sebut we lack of land. Sekarang sebenarnya isu tanah tu ada. Kita ada tanah yang banyak, especially when we look at the rubber sector. There are 420,000 hectares of untapped area untuk getah. So this is the land that we can optimize for the near future. So TPPKN can act as a land bank. You can provide the land bank for the people who need the land. And then other suggestion from our side is that to combine this TPPKN, tabung pembangunan pekebun kecil negara, digabungkan dengan PTPTN. Sebab apa? Sebab majority of the siswazah dekat Malaysia ni dia tak ada tanah. Especially yang fokus pada subjek-subjek pertanian. Siswazah-siswazah di UPM contohnya kita tengok. Banyak yang buat fokus pada pendidikan berkaitan pertanian tapi dia tak ada tanah. And a lot of the siswazah yang membuat pinjaman PTPTN ni dia tak membuat bayaran balik. Sebab apa? Sebab dia tak dapat kerja yang baik. Dan kalau dia berminat dalam bidang pertanian pun, dia don't have access to that land. So this is where TPPKN can come. So dia boleh, all the smallholders, all the siswazah ni boleh pinjam dengan land bank ni. Pekebun-pekebun kecil yang voluntarily nak terlibat dalam land bank ni boleh provide their land to TPPKN untuk di-develop. And then the profit can be shared lah between those two. The siswazah pun boleh menerima apa profit yang dia terima dari ladang tu, dia boleh sumbang balik, dia boleh bayar balik PTPTN dia, and at the same time can help to increase the fund for the TPPKN. And then one other thing, second last is, sorry panjang sikit sebab I think this is very important thing. The next project yang perlu digunakan untuk land bank ni, kerajaan perlu fokus more on high value farming punya tanaman. Which is sekarang kita ada kerjasama dengan High Value Farming Group, terdiri daripada pemilik-pemilik dadang yang juga researcher daripada PAUPM, kebanyakannya adalah profesor daripada Persatuan Alumni sendiri daripada UPM. And they have the market already, a firm market. So the government can work together with this team untuk kenal pasti jenis-jenis tanaman yang sesuai to be developed by this siswazah yang boleh teringin nak terlibat dalam bidang pertanian. And this can solve a lot of issue. The 3 main issue tadi lah, isu tanah, isu pekerja dan isu teknologi. Because smallholders, when you're talking about the youngsters, the only thing they are looking for if they participate in the agricultural sector is technology and then a very systematic punya sistem penggajian. If this can be solved through TPPKN. So we are hoping the government can look this further up. And then last but not least, we are hoping the government boleh restructure balik agensi yang duduk di bawah kementerian. Sebab yang kalau kita nampak sekarang agensi yang duduk di bawah kementerian berkaitan pertanian ada 3 kementerian yang pegang, KPKM, KPK dan juga KKDW. Jadi fungsinya sama. Dia menyukarkan macam YB Datuk Seri sebut tadi, menyukarkan dari segi pelaksanaan polisi macam mana pekebun kecil petani tu nak dapatkan insentif yang disediakan kerajaan. Jadi kita cadang supaya digabungkan YB. Okay, terima kasih. One other thing YB. Congratulations on your datukship. Okay, thank you.
Okay, mungkin saya jawab dulu satu round kan. Kalau tidak nanti saya lupa. Kan, I have to remember 20 soalan dia saya lupa. Soalan pertama dia Saudara Halim, and in fact to a certain extent sama dengan within the same category dengan soalan kedua Saudara Moza tadi pasal sebenarnya medical device kan. Saya I didn't spend a long time in pharmaceutical industry, but I did spend some time. Memang kita ada, pharmaceutical industry memang challenge dia tu besar kerana the cost to develop especially your own IP itu sangat mahal kan, because you have to go through very long medical trial dan sebagainya. Slightly less on medical device kerana medical device is a shorter requirement, simpler requirement dan boleh register terus dengan MDA. I think kalau kita tanya, kalau Saudara Halim tanya dari point to ponder kan, saya ingat ialah dia ada banyak pandangan. I have my own views, having been in the industry for a short while, having been on this side sebagai policy maker, Kementerian Kesihatan ada view dia dan sebagainya lah. Tapi kalau kita nak banding dengan Singapore, if we were to take Singapore as a benchmark, kan, satu ialah Singapore was very successful in attracting the high value investments. So those investments that went to Singapore, they managed to really position themselves as a hub for research, and therefore their ability and funding to take a larger bite because they had more fun, and therefore they could sustain longer, and therefore the products so eventually of international market. We have seen, I think, a big challenge now kerana on the one hand, pharmaceutical cost is really going up. Part of the medical inflation ni, sebahagiannya ialah kerana medical cost, pharmaceutical cost, and itu juga I think is a function of both. Is a function of healthcare service to be able to balance between patented dengan IP. My view has always been is that, you know, for patented dengan generic, my view has always been that, you know, kalau ada produk yang memang generic, I rather take generic and won't pay for the brand. But not everyone is like that. And sometimes culturally pun, kalau kita pergi jumpa doktor pun, we want the patented brand walaupun ada IP, walaupun ada generic kan. Jadi I think in the late 90s, early 2000, there were policies, there were a lot of push to make sure that we do this step by step, while government try to build our own so-called pharmaceutical industry so that we can create our own patented products. But at the very least, we need to be able to replace with local generics. I think we see struggle with that, and even generics pun kita see struggle kan. Jadi even kalau kita buat generics pun API, active pharmaceutical ingredients, we still have to import quite a lot dan sebagainya kan. Jadi I do agree dengan Saudara Halim tadi. It's very critical for us to look at and deep dive into what to do with the pharmaceutical industry, not just because of the need to have a vibrant pharmaceutical industry for value creation dan sebagainya, but it's also for the sustainability of our healthcare, because it's very important to manage pharmaceutical inflation, and at least for those who can afford an equal quality healthcare service, if it means that you go for generic, then that should be more or less the way forward, either dekat public healthcare or private healthcare. Now there are certain things lah, contohnya apa nama ni, Badan Farmaseutikal Kebangsaan and all this. I think these are the input that we will take. Of course, the challenge for Kementerian Ekonomi is that we develop the long-term plan, but the sectoral responsibility to lies with kementerian masing-masing lah. And in the case of pharmaceutical, that means that it's something that we constantly will discuss and figure out dengan Kementerian Kesihatan, and also MOF part of it, because to me it's like quite a lot of everything that happens dengan pharmaceutical industry in Malaysia, public sector is a main stakeholder, and therefore procurement policy will actually have a lot of impact on the growth of pharmaceutical industry. So all those things, I can tell you, Saudara Halim, we are fully aware. We have to go through this process dengan Kementerian Kesihatan, dan di peringkat Kementerian Ekonomi, we have one advantage because we manage Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara, and selalunya sectoral intervention tu, once we have a fair idea, once the program design has been finalized and harmonized dengan semua stakeholders, then we can formalize it through Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara that will be cross-cutting government initiative yang semua kementerian terbabit kena patuhi lah. So I think that process will be ongoing, and most probably we will see interventions in pharmaceutical ni as a standalone just for pharmaceutical industry in the next maybe 1 year. It's slightly easier dengan medical device. I do understand licensing overseas memang mahal kan, tapi dekat Malaysia through MDA, Medical Device Authority, is not as prohibitive. But my view is that at this stage, we have an opportunity to increase adoption locally dahulu. And it goes sama juga, it goes back to public sector's adoption. Dan dia berpunca daripada the overall procurement dan juga budget process. Because budget processnya selalunya spek itu ditentukan di peringkat teratas. Jadi kalau di bahagian Kementerian Kesihatan that decide the spec. So kalau kita tak carve out and create a program so that Kementerian Kesihatan is given the leeway to progressively push for comparable locally manufactured medical device, memang payah lah. Walaupun medical device tu dah memang certified dan dah memang boleh dipakai, because adoption in private sector tu lagi payah lah compared dengan public healthcare. So the program is already ongoing. We've gone through a few meetings. Alignment is being made, and progressively di peringkat Kementerian Ekonomi, because permohonan bajet itu datang kepada Kementerian Ekonomi, memang we are looking at how to roll out progressively adoption of more and more locally manufactured medical device, especially perkara-perkara yang actually common sense, yang we don't need rocket science. It's not as if that we are asking our local public health to come up with MRI machine. Tapi there's a lot of handheld device contohnya that is non-invasive, yang you tak payah nak buat keluarkan darah and so on nowadays. Those things, even dekat household pun we buy from China those products kan. So those products actually, I think government does have a big role to make sure that at least it's adopted first within our public healthcare system. My only caution is this: don't get trapped with relying on government program. And our experience in the last 50, 60 years, sometimes good intention eventually ended up as a failure, because government will always started with carving out just to give the head start for locally manufactured products. Tapi lama-lama, whoever who gets into the system, and actually this goes the same dengan pharmaceutical industry juga, my own observation, I used to be part of that, The moment you get that carved out from government, and then we become very comfortable. The real market is out there. Whatever government carved out is actually just a proof of concept and to give you the head start so that your business plan and your go-to-market plan too is credible. But the real market is not just Malaysia, the real market is ASEAN, China, and then it's just that we have to compete. Kalau medical device ni, memang kena, especially the smaller ones, memang kena compete dengan not just the European, the Western ones, especially more so with the Chinese ones coming to our market. Kan? But I can tell Sir Moza tadi that yes, I think we have already, government has already agreed on some allocation and some program supaya kita expedite and kita carve out adoption of some of these locally manufactured medical device that actually of equal quality. It's just that they mungkin tak ada brand name ataupun the scale that international competitors have. Tadi the question from KLK, and I think this whole issue about biodiesel, we wanted to do downstreaming and oleochemicals since I was a single guy, still not married, late 90s, early 2000. I remember there was one period where government agencies spent a lot of money buying oleochemicals companies overseas, in Canada, in Netherlands, and so I remember that part. You see, I think that has to happen, that has to continue, and it's a matter of survival. So I think large-scale plantation, palm oil plantation companies will continue to push for downstreaming for higher value products simply because as you downstream, you get better value creation. And we will always be subjected to the normal challenges, access to technology, competition, and so on. The slight difference, I think, when it comes to biodiesel mandate, because I have my views about biodiesel mandate for a long time, I think is a question of option for value that as a country we have to make. I think my impression is that Indonesia can do that, satu, because of its scale of production, secondly, because of its cost of production. And therefore, they can have a biodiesel. They are not B20, B40 already, B50. And I remember those years they started with B10, and then so it's already B40. And B40 means the blend of 40% palm oil into diesel. And they could do it because I think their volume gives them advantage on economies of scale, and therefore cost of production is cheaper. And they use that as a counter measure against price fluctuation, because you always have a huge volume that you can mop up and push it out to biodiesel. And we may not have that kind of volume. And then we may not have the size. It's like kalau crude oil, countries like Saudi, the big OPEC brothers, Saudi and Russia and 2 or 3 others, because of the sheer size of their global volume, and also because of their much lower unit cost production, they can play around with production volume and mop it out somewhere else in order for them to influence a global price. I'm not sure our volume now put us at the position when we can do that, because if we try to do biodiesel mandate, even at B20, but the price is so much higher than the diesel price, then the economics doesn't work. And so I think that's the bit that is very difficult for government to have a national biodiesel mandate of the size that Indonesia has. But having said that, I think comparatively, our expertise, R&D in even oleochemicals or even downstreaming is actually much better compared to Indonesia for the time being. And this is something that government actually memang allocate a lot of money. Okay, whether or not it eventually reaches out to companies yang betul-betul buat R&D, whether in the form of grant, whether in the form of tax deduction and so on. That is something that we are reforming internally. I think it's not so much that whether government has a program or not. Government allocates about how much? Kita punya it's about 1% of GDP. So it's almost like 1 billion, 1.3 billion ringgit R&D grant every year that government gives out to various agencies and ministries. But, layers of bureaucracy, how these are designed, sometimes dia tak sampai to the people that really can make use of this research grant. And if you look at our R&D infrastructure, actually we have a lot of gaps. The only way for us to track R&D of the private sector is actually through tax deduction. And then when you submit for your tax deduction claim, it's actually one big item. And then of course, IRB will come and try to confirm. There is no requirement, for example, for private sector to submit information about their R&D activities. And that actually makes it quite difficult for government to even know what's happening out there beyond preaching. So it's like we have this ayam bercakap dengan itik, government kata, kita dah allocate banyak ni, why is not happening? And why are we still falling behind? Kan? Private sector kata, government tak bagi. Government kata sila buat R&D, So, but part of it is actually very structural. Other countries in the world, they have actually regulation that mandates and make it compulsory for private sector to submit R&D information. Of course, you have to manage in terms of IP and so on lah. But in order to build an ecosystem where government's programs and R&D grant can really go to those private sectors or public sectors that really need it, actually kalau kita compare, our infrastructure is actually quite basic. So M10, Mosti dengan Kementerian Ekonomi have presented to M10 a joint paper of the overall reform of R&D, and the whole idea is how do we debottleneck and simplify this bureaucracy? What are the infrastructure that we need to put in place? Decision has been made, it's going to cabinet. Kementerian Ekonomi and Mosti have this challenging task of going to the public with that reform details of what is going to happen, maybe March or April. So hopefully by March and April, we can start presenting to the public. This is how R&D is going to be much better in the future, because my difficulty as Menteri Ekonomi, every year, public and private sector will come screaming at me, give us more money. I'm all for it. And for this stage of our economy, we do need to pump more money into RDI, research, development, commercialization, and innovation. It's given. Our GERD, general expenses on R&D, is not even 1% of GDP. For other countries to reach where they are now, they spend about at least 2.5 to 3%. But so far, a lot of R&D money is actually pumped by government. And these are public money. So until we put the infrastructure in place and to make sure there's more transparency, more outcome-based, and we make sure that we mandate the research in all the important sectors rather than basic or general research just for the sake of having a grant. So these are being put in place because in terms of economic reforms, I think our credibility as a country, as an economy, trying to do what we do, if we don't do this, international investors will start questioning us. It's impossible for us to leapfrog to the next level of value creation unless we resolve the R&D, commercialization, and innovation. And the RDI ecosystem is not just a function of how much money is being pumped, it is the whole ecosystem must be built so that it's more transparent, so that it is less bureaucratic, so that it's more outcome-based. And hopefully, 2025, Musti and Kementerian Ekonomi, we are hopeful that this is going to be a year for big RDI reforms, and then corporations, industries that will be able to see, how then you can start coming in. Last question tadi pasal Perbadanan Tabung Tanah Pekebun Kecil kan. Likewise, I think sama juga, diagnosis tu kita sedia maklum. Sebenarnya kita ada legacy problem lah kan, dalam tahun 60-an, 70-an, kita bermula dengan, in fact RMK pertama, kedua, ketiga tu, banyak fokusnya ialah macam mana to consolidate small aktiviti pertanian ini kepada dalam bentuk perladangan. So as a result of that, banyak agensi-agensi yang ditubuhkan. Kita ada RISDA, kita ada Felcra, selain daripada itu, kita juga ada syarikat-syarikat peladangan, ada yang bersaiz-besar, ada smallholders kan. Likewise, sebenarnya peruntukan kepada agensi-agensi untuk memberi dana ataupun grant ini sebenarnya adalah projek yang berterusan. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think RISDA memang ada tabung dia, Felcra ada tabung dia. But my impression is this lah. Efisiensi setakat ini tidaklah mencapai sepenuhnya. Maksudnya kalau kita bagi X juta, X juta ini kalau ikut costing dia, kalau diagihkan melalui program-program pembangunan semula tanah-tanah terkumpul ini, baik yang kalau I think di bawah Felcra, baik yang diserahkan kepada Felcra untuk diuruskan ataupun yang pekebun kecil di bawah RISDA, kalau X million amount is meant to redevelop Y hectares, actually dia tak jadi Y hectares. X million disbursed and spent, tapi the percentage tu mungkin 60% of the Y hectares, 70% of the Y. Dan sebagainya juga ialah kerana it's also the transition we have had with our society. Tadi yang saudara yang tanya tadi, it's a challenge sebenarnya untuk mendapatkan budak-budak untuk bekerja ni. And I've sat down with a few smallholders and the complaint is the same. Market banyak, jualan baik, tetapi untuk mendapatkan lokal untuk bekerja is nearly impossible kalau budak-budak lah, kalau bekerja. Tambah kalau kelapa sawit paling susah. Tapi pertanian lain pun, kelapa pun payah kan. I remember asking one smallholder, dia kata kalau bayar 3,000 pun orang tak nak sekarang budak-budak kat kampung tu. Walaupun dia tak ada kerja, still kena ambil pekerja asing. So dia sanggup untuk tak kerja. Jadi bentuk kerja apa yang dia nak dalam sektor smallholder semua ni kan? Kalau dia jadi mando dia sudah. So we have to contend also with that society problem lah kan. Kita as we develop memang pandangan orang pasal sebab kait buah ni bukan murah tau. I think the cost, I don't know KLK bayar berapa, but I think the total monthly cost untuk seorang pekerja asing kait buah kelapa sawit can easily go to about 5,000 a month. Campur 4,000 yang dibayar kat dia, campur dengan kos yang lain semua is easily 5,000. It's actually more lucrative than becoming an engineer. Tapi yalah, you can't force it. Jadi sebab itu, I think as I say, in terms of diagnosis, I think kita semua bersetuju bahawa we have a lot of leakages, inefficiencies kan. Itu juga sebahagiannya kenapa Kementerian Ekonomi buat banci pertanian tahun lepas. Tahun ini kita akan umumkan keputusan dia dan sebagainya. The last time banci pertanian dibuat tahun 2005. And so now with the latest banci pertanian 2024, actually kita ada maklumat yang paling terperinci, guna tanah, jumlah pekerja, tanah terbiar, smallholders berapa, that will fit into our next round of planning. Whether it becomes tabung, whether it's because actually in essence tabung tu dah ada. Tabung tu memang dah ada dan diuruskan dalam bentuk program-program yang berlainan di bawah agensi-agensi yang berlainan. If the question is actually scale, then I agree with you. Kadang-kadang kita sebagai sebuah negara, kita buat beruncit-runcit. Dan saya juga faham pandangan daripada agensi kadang-kadang, ialah kerana benda ni dah berlaku, tapi bila dia, as I say, X amount disbursed, dia tak jadi Y hectares. X amount disbursed, kemudian dia bertempur semua ni untuk get the outcome, dan sebahagiannya, and I think it will be confirmed by by banci pertanian, kita pun, I think whatever numbers that we have so far, dari segi jumlah petani, jumlah pekebun kecil ni, even those numbers are inflated. Sebab bila kita laporkan kat parlimen ke apa data dalam kerajaan, berapa orang petani, berapa orang pekebun kecil kan, contohnya petani, macam mana kita kira berapa orang petani yang dalam Malaysia ni? Selalunya kita tengok kepada jumlah penerima subsidi. Kerajaan bagi macam subsidi baja, allowance ini kan. Jadi bila kerajaan di parlimen, orang tanya sebenarnya berapa jumlah petani kita? And based on this macro number, we do macro planning untuk pertanian semua kan. Kita ambil jumlah orang yang claim. Tapi I think with banci, we will be able to confirm sebenarnya bukan semua yang pekebun kecil ke yang dapat manfaat, petani yang dapat subsidi, bukan semua petani. Dia sebenarnya cikgu, tapi dia ada kebun sikit kat belakang. Actually, it's true. Jadi akhirnya, you see whatever numbers and our understanding about pertanian, guna tanah sebenarnya tu, we have to recalibrate, and that's the process that we're going now. I mean, I'm so glad that sebenarnya that massive exercise of banci pertanian. In fact, kita tengah clean the numbers now kan. It's not easy because kita kena survey semua. Tanah berapa, ayam berapa, lembu berapa, petani berapa semua ni kan. So that we get that number. Based on that, I think it's going to be a vital input for us to know how to do this more efficiently in the future. Sama ada it comes out with one whole tabung, sama ada it's in different program design. Saya rasa we are on agreement on that. We don't have any objection to that. The challenge is how to do this efficiently supaya dia betul-betul akan ada kesan kepada sektor pertanian kita. And di peringkat Kementerian Ekonomi memang tujuan kita ialah untuk to mainstream modern farming. Sebab tu kalau tengok kepada kajian separuh penggal RMK13 tahun lepas, kita ada 5 sektor fokus. Sektor yang lain tu semua orang macam okeylah faham. Peralihan tenaga, advanced E&E, digital and tech. Ini semua yang hebat-hebat semua ni kan. REE, rare earth elements. Tapi ada satu sektor tu yang macam tak fit in, which is modern farming. So dari segi dasar kerajaan RMK12 sekarang bersambung dengan RMK13, saya rasa pertanian moden akan terus dapat bajet yang besar, akan terus jadi tumpuan ekonomi, tetapi kadang-kadang is a lot easier dengan greenfield industry. Because you design it, kemudian you gunakan yang terkini, and then you have less legacy issues to deal with. When it comes to transitioning, farming, peladangan smallholders ni into modern farming where it is driven by market economics, where it can offer high value jobs, high tech. We have to deal with a lot of legacy issues, termasuklah legacy issues agensi, kementerian dan sebagainya lah. And those are the process that we are going through. Well noted. The real challenge is macam mana nak bertempur dalam kerajaan. Then I think that's the real challenge lah. But I think that's a commitment and acknowledgement that we need to do something very radical. Otherwise kita nak buat sesuatu pada skala yang besar ni to leapfrog smallholders and our farming plantation into modern ones, kita akan berterusan ada masalah-masalah struktur yang ini. Okay, so next round of questions.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Datuk Seri, saya tak boleh tunggu lama, kena duduk, sakit pinggang. Saya Syed Zikri Syahuddin daripada Majlis Perundingan Melayu. I represent about 23 business clusters today, and some of them are here today. Now, most of the question YB dah jawab tadi. So I do out of 7 tu, tinggal probably only 1 question left. Okay. Now, most of the ministries will be submitting their RMK13 punya submissions. Now, we have one question, a very important one. Macam now, I'm talking about agromakanan lah, food security kita ni. Beridatin Zaidah will note this down also. Every time RMK13, RMK12, 11, 10 dulu pun run of the mill, business as usual submissions of RMK punya plans. Now, I'm sure that Kementerian Ekonomi has done this. Cost benefit analysis. You have many models, many methods of calculating. But have you actually given it down to the ministries to do it? Now I give you one example lah. Today I sit here today because actually I'm supposed to be at Kementerian Pertanian, ada amanat menteri ni. But I chose to be here today, very important. Okay, so this cost benefit analysis, for every ringgit that the government spend on capital expenditure, on subsidies, for every ringgit, the benefit, calculation on the cost benefit analysis. Many arguments on this. Now, for every ringgit, what is the best that you want out of the 1 ringgit? Now, has it been driven down to the ministries? I've seen this because you know, you did the IPR in TAN, you know the supply chain. Now, when you talk about supply chain, macam kerangka food security, ini you have like indirectly 8 ministries, bawah ada directly 4 ministries looking into this. Now, are they coordinated in terms of the supply chain? You may have MDEC looking into, mostly MDEC looking into AI, IoT on agriculture. You have upstream agriculture, assuming like aquaculture farming, you have Jabatan Perikanan, LKM looking into it. The market, the processing, the whole supply chain. And government comes in, looking at the supply chain, intervene at the weakest link in the supply chain. Now, is it well spent money by the government to strengthen the supply chain? Are you creating an alternative supply chain? So that is the real question now. Can the ministries that submit to Kementerian Ekonomi, there ada a process that they have to go through, cost benefit analysis. For every ringgit that the government is going to give them, subsidies ke capital gain. This we want to know. Yeah, by March, I think they should be able to do it. That is my last question. But the rest you answered already. The agriculture is very important. Food security is very important. Because when we did the plan tindakan nakol that day, they were talking about many models, many theories. I said, look, you should just look at the supply side saja. How you control supply, because demand you can always plot. Supply side is very important. How you control supply, you get the right prices that you want.
Alright guys, so itu dia.
Saya senyum sebab saya boleh.
Panjang lagi lah sebenarnya untuk sesi ini. Ada 1 jam lebih lagi, tapi kita akan masuk kepada sesi ini saja dulu. Dan kita boleh nampak sahabat semua bagaimana profesionalnya ya, mereka memberikan soalan-soalan ya kepada YB Rafizi Ramli, dan YB Rafizi juga memberikan jawapan yang begitu baik ya di dalam persoalan dan juga pencerahan jawapan yang diberikan. Jadi ini menunjukkan ya betapa perkara seperti ini sebenarnya adalah satu yang amat penting ya, harus dilakukan untuk kita membina, mengumpul ya segala persoalan, jawapan dan juga maklumat-maklumat ya untuk dirumuskan ya agar memberi keterujan ataupun memberi manfaat ya kepada negara kita, khususnya kepada Datuk Seri YB Rafizi Ramli ya, untuk merangkumkan semua perkara itu dan memasukkan ya di dalam rancangan Malaysia yang ke-13. Jadi itu pandangan saya, sahabat semua. Bagaimana dengan anda? Anda akan setuju atau tidak? Boleh berikan komen ya di dalam ruangan komen. Jadi sampai di sini saja, kita akan sambung untuk part yang kedua. Jadi izinkan saya untuk mengundurkan diri. Dan seperti biasa, peribahasa mengatakan, tak apa pun kangkap 2 ton keinginan. Dalam bahasa Melayunya, tepuk dada, tanya selera. Sekian jadi daripada ORAITNOPO Channel. Saya kita berjumpa lagi. Bye-bye.